doctor bano, lawyer bano, engineer bano. But there is more. In the world that we live today, where is creativity? Creativity is ruling the world today, Content is not just the king or the queen. It's the entire gamut of players on that chessboard, which is life. The world today and tomorrow is content driven, whichever way you look at it. Who are you writing for? Because if you are writing for everybody, you're writing for nobody. So you need to kind of narrow down to say, who am I writing to? Twitter cannot have the same content that I'm using on Instagram.
Yes.
It's never going to work. So you have to be very cautious of how and where you're using the content. Figure out, try and find your one point. What is that one thing that you can go non-stop talking about? Talk about that. So when I'm talking about AI, using AI, I mean use it to ideate, use it to give you information, maybe to research, but you need to humanize it, right? I don't know everything about, say, an Odisha or a Chhattisgarh, right? But when I go for meetings of Prabha Khaitan out there, I learn a lot. As far as we go, we're trying to imbibe the traditional versus modern. And through literature, I think that can be achieved because literature is timeless.
Hi, Pooja, and welcome to the About Her show. This is a show where we get trailblazing women to share the story of their lives with us. To tell us about their successes, failures, ups and downs, challenges, all of that, so that not only do they get a platform to showcase themselves, but they also help us inspire other women. Women out there who have dreams, ambitions, aspirations, but something is holding back. They are not able to move ahead, or they're not able to break out of whatever is holding them back. So this way we feel that we may be able to inspire one, two, maybe more. And then along with women, we also get men on the show, men who champion such women, because we believe that for a truly gender inclusive world, men and women need to be allies in this journey.
Yeah.
Now, looking at your profile, well, there is a whole lot of stuff that you're doing, and I am like absolutely amazed and floored by the not only what you're doing, but how you're doing and how you're
Thank you.
impacting so many lives. I mean, like I told you before the conversation, that it resonates with me at so many levels. I can relate to it. I can understand what you're doing. So it's truly, truly fascinating. And obviously, I'm all ears. I really want to know all about you. So once again, a very, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta, for having me on your show About Her. I've been hearing about it, I've been reading about it, and now to be on it is actually like a dream come true. So
Oh,
really, really excited to be here in conversation with you, and of course for the awesome audience that we have.
thank you. Thank you. So let's dive in. So, like
Yes.
I said, you wear so many hats. You're a content strategist, columnist, author, speaker, and even a corporate brand expert. So, tell me, I mean, was there any defining moment in your life that set you onto this path of content creation and storytelling?
So, content creation and storytelling, there are two different parts of me.
Mhm.
Not with Dr. Jekyll, not Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I will not say that, but I would say the yin and yang,
Okay.
because inherently they're both connected, but on the surface they're both different, right? So storytelling for me started when I wrote my first book, Pursuit, Drawn by Destiny, which is about the complexities of relationships in our middle ages. In India specifically, when we talk about love and romance in your mid 40s, it's considered taboo for some reason.
Mm.
People are together not because of, let's say it the other way, people are together for every reason other than love. And
Mm.
that's what the book touches upon, society, low, children, this, that, business, whatever reason, but love doesn't feature. And I wanted to bring that emotion out. I do have a sequel for it. The book is being considered for a series or a film at this point. So
Wow.
excited to see where that goes. So storytelling for me started with the book. And the content part, very strange. What happened is one blog. So I used to do a lot of blogs for the local paper.
Mm-hmm.
I'm based out of Dehradun, and I used to blog on just before Corona again on life relationships with a twist, because I feel that there's too much of information overload on the internet and nobody wants gyan. When you grow up with teenagers in the house, the first thing they say is, "Don't give us gyan. Tell
Mm.
us what you want to, but do not tell us the should be, could be." So I wanted to kind of talk about real life situations without sounding like, going into monk mode, so to speak. So that's how I started doing blogs. And one of my blogs got kind of picked up by a very senior politician.
Mm.
And he asked me to manage his TED speeches, otherwise his speeches that he gives in English and Hindi, and as well as his personal brand. And for me, that was like an eye-opening fact. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know that, one blog, one random blog, and I still remember that blog was on success and failure. And it was a very different take on success and failure, and how failure does not mean the be all end all. Like in India, we say, doctor bano, lawyer bano, engineer bano, but there is more. In the world that we live today, where is creativity? Creativity is ruling the world today.
Absolutely.
So why not a creative space? In fact, when my daughter, elder one, had to leave for college, everybody looked at me with in like absolutely, awestruck that who sends a child abroad, to the United States for creativity, for art? And I said, because that's her passion and that's the future. And if we don't stand by, who's going to stand by them? So, I feel that that was something that was missing, and we make an impact least realizing that we do. And that is what I wanted to do with my writing. So that was the starting point for me.
Okay, okay. And now, like, you do it in various forms, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Wonderful. And not only do you do it in various forms, but when I looked at your work, so your work, it spans industries
Yeah.
from PR and geopolitics to wellness and law. My God, there is, I mean, it's a never-ending list. So, how do you navigate and adapt your content strategy across such diverse domains?
So I feel that every industry has its own dialect, right? Every industry that I have worked across. This is again something that I learned while writing. I was an outsourced kind of resource for a lot of PR companies where my friends were working at.
Mm.
And that is when I started doing blogs and articles for Fortune 500s. And in spite of, them being employed full time with them, what I realized was this stark divide. Somewhere I think my age kind of played in, because when you're writing say an opinion piece for somebody who's 50, 55, a younger person, someone my daughter's age at 20, cannot get the tone of voice or cannot deep dive into research like you and I would. So
Right.
that's where I felt I stood apart, and I used to do these blogs just as a side thing while writing my own, that hey, this is something because I'm very passionate about learning. I'm very, very curious, and I love knowing about what is happening in the world around, which is why I find that it was easy for me to navigate between industry. I am industry agnostic for this particular reason, that despite people telling me that stick to one niche, I said, why? I'm a creative person. Why should I box myself into, I will only talk to healthcare founders, for example. I
Right.
can talk about healthcare, I can talk about geopolitics, I can talk about PR, I can talk about mental wellness. All it needs is a deep dive into understanding what the person is trying to say and then write about it,
Yes.
right? So that deep dive, that research is something that I love doing, and that kind of worked in my favor when I started writing across industry. And
Mm.
I realized that people were reaching out to me because of my versatility at uh, writing.
Right. But you're so right. I mean, like they say, once a writer, always a writer. I mean,
Yeah.
if you can write and you can do creative writing, you can do it for anyone and for any
Yeah.
field. Why should it be, like you said, why should you box yourself or why should you limit yourself to only, one space or one area? So that's very, very true. Okay. So, like you mentioned, you've worked with Fortune 500 companies and then global
Hmm.
leaders, and now you manage the personal brand of one of, India's most powerful figures, I believe.
Yeah.
So, what have been the biggest learnings that you've got from working with such influential personalities?
A lot. There's secrets for one,
Yep.
because when you are in conversation with them, there's this saying that you know so much about them, and they know it. Like you can literally break them, but you don't. And that to me is an insane delusional amount of trust that you have in each other. That they share things, because in conversation a lot comes out. Especially when I'm doing content for LinkedIn, a lot of vulnerable moments also come out. I've had some of the biggest leaders, they're leading conglomerates, and I've had them cry on call just because it was a bad day or they were really overwhelmed. And I feel that at the end of the day, no matter how high you are, you're still human. You can have your bad days. You're not always on in front of the public, or in public light. You can afford to have a low or a weak moment, and that doesn't make you any lesser than who you are. So I feel that the higher the profile, the sharper the messaging, for sure. It needs to be crisp. It needs to be, they prefer clarity, right? They don't want confusion. They don't want long drawn statements and things like that. They need you to hear them, and they need you to put it down on paper just as fast or as briefly as you can. And I think that is where, trust, brevity, consistency, these things kind of stand out.
Absolutely, because like you said, there is so much of trust that has been placed.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
you know
yeah.
secrets, you know their, whatever is their inner world all about, you have access to it. And obviously, so the trust element and the fact that they need to share that with you. And then, of course, you have to convey it in a manner which is like the way they want it to. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there is a lot to learn from there. And like you said, every person is different and you can pick up things from their lives. Now, in addition to these influential figures and personalities, you also helped, I believe, over 1,200 young adults become financially independent through content workshops. So,
Yes.
if you were to look at this, could you tell us what are the top three skills someone needs today to build a successful content career?
Okay, yes. This part of my journey has been most satisfying because, to help someone, I understand the power of financial independence. I understand it much later in, I mean, I understood it much later in life. But when young kids are starting off, I see my own kids in their space and just wonder that if somebody was there to kind of hold me when I was that young, maybe life would have panned out different. But having said that, when I see the eagerness to kind of, because see, content is not just the king or the queen, it's the entire gamut of players on that chessboard, which is life. The world today and tomorrow is content driven, whichever way you look at it, whichever format you look at it, whichever medium you look at it. You want to get on Medium, you want to get on social media, you want to get on newsletters or LinkedIn, whichever way. Content is what is going to drive you as well as your business as well as your brand, right?
Mm.
So how does one start content? The top three skills that you would need: a is to first understand what is your audience or who is your audience, who are you writing for, because if you are writing for everybody, you're writing for nobody. So you need to kind of narrow down to say, who am I writing to? Who I have a very distinct audience in on Instagram versus on LinkedIn. So my tone of content for both the platforms is very varied,
Yes.
because my audience that is different on Instagram versus LinkedIn. The structure tone of my content is also different. So the first and foremost thing is to figure out who your audience is. The second part is writing that infuses an emotion. Tell me about the transformation you will give me. Tell me about the impact that you will make. Don't sell me a product or service. Tell me what that's going to do to my life. Should we do this, right? That is what you need to kind of focus on. And the third, which is how are you distributing that content? As in, is it a text post? Is it a visual? Is it a reel? Is it a static post? Is it an infographic? What is the format of the content that you are using? That again aligned with the example, I'm on Twitter. Twitter cannot have the same content that I'm using on Instagram.
Yes. Yes.
It's never going to work. So you have to be very cautious of how and where you're using the content. And my advice would be, start with one platform instead of going all over. Start with one and then scale up from there, because once you build a brand on one, it's easier for you to scale up. Like I started on Instagram. Once I kind of made it on Instagram, I diversified my audience, which went on to LinkedIn to work for LinkedIn people. So Instagram is where I teach and LinkedIn is where I work. That's my differentiation.
Wow, wow. So you got me also thinking, because it is so true. I mean, first of all, who are you addressing? You can't be talking to everybody. And you
Yeah.
very aptly put that if you're talking to everybody, then you're actually not talking to nobody.
Yeah.
And then which platform? I mean, all these things have to be very, very clear. And, how is it that you're going to create an impact?
Yeah.
So those things I think are what make you as an individual or as a content creator, somebody who is going to be, how should I say, not authentic, but someone who people are going to rely upon and look upon as adding some value to their lives. So yes, very interesting. I mean, even I was thinking about all this while you were listening.
Always here to help whenever.
Thank you, thank you. I think I'll
Yeah.
take you up on that.
Yes, yes.
So we're talking about content, and then when we look around us, we see that there is so much content everywhere on every platform. So my question is that in a world which is flooded with content, so to say, how can creators today distinguish themselves and build a powerful brand name? Because I guess
Drop the mask.
that's what everybody wants.
Yeah. So my three words, just drop the mask, because we are living in a world where there is so much copy paste content, and that is what makes people scroll you by. Because if your content is going to sound like the other person, it's not going to work.
Right,
Why is somebody going to, I don't like the word follower, so I say audience. Or why is my audience following me? Because of something that I bring to the table, something that is different. My niche, so to speak, is not different, as in that I am a content creator. I'm a business content creator, which India doesn't have too much or too many of.
mm,
So in my business content creation journey, how am I different from, say, an XYZ person? So what is it that I am bringing to the table? What is my way of talking? So in Jest, a lot of people call me, like Duracell had this Energizer bunny, and it just goes on and on and on. So it
mm,
started off as a joke, which my kids used to say that you like the Duracell bunny, you just go on, you're like always high on energy at 6 in the morning or 12 at night. And I said, that's just who I am. But that kind of reflected in my content, where every time I was on a call, irrespective of what timing of the morning or night it was, I was always high on energy. And
right,
um, even when I'm doing my reels, it's just that's who I am. I'm always jumpy. I don't follow scripts. I like to kind of, in fact, when you gave me our questionnaire for today, I was very excited to read it. And I did make I'm going to say this and I'm going to say that. But at the end of the day, it was like, I can't read. I'm going to say exactly what I want to say when she asks me, because that's who I am. And I think that is the vibe that we need to bring out. Because what is it that, why are we putting content out there? Because we want people to stop the scroll and hear us or
right.
read us, right?
Mhm.
Why will they do that? If I sound exactly like you sound, then we're both the same.
Absolutely.
Why? I mean, they'll see us for a while and then they'll stop. So the idea here is to bring your USP to the table, is to bring your unique value proposition. Why is it that you should follow me versus A or a B? Because of what I bring to your table, if you're talking about this particular industry.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, as I understand, you have spoken on 20 plus podcasts, if not more. Maybe I've got the figure wrong. And
That's
also
fine.
at several leading institutions like IITs and IIMs. Now, so obviously you're addressing a young audience over here, right?
Yeah.
So, what insights have consistently resonated most with this kind of a young audience?
A superpower called clarity. Where most of the young adults specifically are struggling is to find clarity, uh, to find in their journey, whichever way, whether it's personal or it's professional. They're
Mm,
so busy figuring out, like, okay, mental health and wellness is a very, very important part of our lives today, right? But I find a lot of people, just to try and fit in, want to talk more about mental health and wellness, least realizing that they're not even making sense. So I always say, be clear when you're talking about something. If you want to talk about, say, a condition or how it's affecting you, put yourself into it. What is the intent behind you wanting to talk about mental health? What gives you that authority to talk? Why are you the right person? Like, for example, me. I am all for mental health, and I know that it's a condition. Maybe when we were younger, we used to say that we used to get like a tight slap, and our mom used to be like, everything is fine. All your chakras, karmas, everything is all aligned. Just shut up, sit down, do it. But that
mm,
doesn't work in the world today.
right.
It's because the world is different today. So I absolutely understand when, children turn around and say, young adults that reach out to say that we're just having a bad day, we're very anxious, or, words like body shaming. I get it, because I've written a book on it. In fact, it's with Westland at the time,
Mm,
at this point. And I think there are things that we should talk about, but I'm not the right person to talk about it. In conversation, I can. But if you were to invite me to, I've been invited, once to say, will you talk about this, the mental health in the world today? And I said, that's not my forte. I
mm,
can talk to kids about it in conversation, but I'm not the right person for it. And I think that is something we need to realize. It's not that I can talk about anything under the sun, so can you, right?
Right.
but we specifically stick to one. Today, your podcast about her is specifically for women entrepreneurs and men who support women entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
which is also a rarity, if you ask me. To
Hmm.
bring, to get men to support women that are probably doing better than them in India is still not taken
Yeah.
very, very well. So
Hmm.
that is the USP of this show. There are so many podcasts. How do you stand out? Because this is what you bring to the table. That
Hmm.
is what I try and tell the young adults when I speak to them, that figure out, try and find your one point. What is that one thing that you can go non-stop talking about? Talk about that.
That is actually so true. Because, like,
Yeah.
it's like they say, now, jack of all and master of none. So you can't be that, and
Yeah.
especially in today's world when there are so many people, and people have access to content. In earlier days, probably it was just limited to conversations or interactions with people. We did not have so much, forget access, there wasn't so much content available. Nowadays, there
Yeah.
is, so you have to have a USP, you have to have something which only you can bring to the table, and that is how people will kind of look at you and like follow you or whatever they want to do. So you
Yeah.
think that when you are with the young people, you are trying to tell them this, which I think kind of again resonates with me because I'm also from the academia, and when I teach my students, this is what I tell them, that you have so many career options and so many paths that you can choose. But what is it that you see yourself doing 10 years from now? If you
Yeah.
can
That's
visualize
a question to
that,
ask.
then let's kind of work backwards and then do whatever it takes to get there. But right now, of
Right.
course, there are so many options. Now, I believe that you have,
Spoiled for choice.
yes, point for choice.
They're spoiled for choice.
But I don't really envy them because it becomes difficult, because what is
Yeah.
it that with so much of information, like I always say, there's so much of information overload. You have to be
Yeah.
able to sift it out and then only pick on things which are relevant to you. So that
Yeah.
is not easy. Okay.
In a way, it was easier for us. We had these
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
streams: commerce, arts, and science. But now, literally, every day I hear of something new, and I'm like, what is that? It's exciting. It's different. So yeah.
Maybe it's exciting for us because we don't have to do it.
Yeah.
So
Because we didn't have it. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm sure not for them. Yes.
yeah, yeah. So Pooja, you have leveraged AI apps to scale your content career, which I think a lot of us also do it. But since you are, like I said, this content is your USP, it is what you were known for. What is your take on AI as a tool for creators? Is it complementary or is it competitive?
Complementary. So I am of the firm belief, one, I love learning because I think a curious mind is something that will always A, keep me young, and B, which of course we want to. I don't need anything to keep me young. I just learn, have an ever curious mind. But on a serious note, I think that what it does is, if it's used as an ally instead of a threat, it can do wonders to our productivity. And that is where I'm seeing I don't need to work 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
Yes, I may have 10-hour days sometimes, but with AI, what happens is that the scaling of my business, which started as a one-person business, is now I have 8 people with me. And how can I do that? Everybody's doing their bit, but we have a lot of AI that helps us do it faster. So neither of us or none of us are working, 8, 10 hours a day.
Hmm.
We've got enough clients, we've got enough work, but okay, so when I'm talking about AI, using AI, I mean use it to ideate, use it to give you information, maybe to research, but you need to humanize it, right?
Yes.
Because without, again, if you don't humanize it, it's going to sound as generic as everything else. As of today, AI doesn't have that emotion as much as you put it. Prompt engineering, why is it coming up? Because even to teach AI, you have to tell it. Think of it as a personal VA of sorts. VA means virtual assistant.
Hmm.
So think of it as a personal VA of sorts, where you kind of direct your assistant to do A, B, C, D, E. How should they do it? You tell them. So you literally have to talk to AI to explain them this is what you want. And the better you explain, the better your output will be. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with using it as long as it's ethical. And for industries, for example, like in what we do as blogs, articles, because a lot of them get featured in Time, Forbes, People, different magazines. So if a part of it is used or written by AI, we always put in a disclaimer, this part is AI.
Hmm. Hmm.
So they know. So there's nothing wrong, there's nothing unethical. It's just as to what the person wants and how you can leverage AI to kind of grow. And trust me, it actually is giving us life to live. Instead of us hustling 24/7, I feel with AI, at least we've got time to enjoy life. Because what is the point? I always say, if we are going to be sitting and earning those millions and millions, when are we using time to spend those millions? What is it doing for us? See, the richest of the richest in the world. Yes, they're doing brilliantly. They're on every list possible. But when are they living? Those few, 5, 7 days in the Bahamas or holidays with friends, and that's our family. Otherwise, when are they living? They don't have time. I
Right.
mean, I've seen so many people, they're just struggling with time. And that's something we talk about on LinkedIn specifically a lot.
Mhm.
That, the idea to be here is to give you time. And a lot of people come to me for that reason, because, they're heading countries, parts of the, biggest companies of the world. And they're like, but we don't have time. And I said, because you're busy doing what you are. And if you were to add 2 hours of LinkedIn to your day, that would take that much time.
Right.
My work is LinkedIn, but if alongside LinkedIn I had to add what you were doing, I couldn't, which is why there is enough room for everybody. Like, one of the things I say, Sangeeta, is there's no competition. It's a collaboration, even between creators. I say that people at the top, they're busy collaborating, people at the bottom, busy competing. Decide where you want to be and then find your journey.
Great, great. Very well said. Decide where you want to be. And I kind of like this, what you are saying, that yes, use AI as a tool which helps you. So whether you are looking for ideas or you're looking for data or you want to research something, sometimes you have an idea, but you don't know how it is going to, sound, or whether it is something that you can work on. So I feel these kind of things one can definitely use AI for. You can use it
Yeah,
as a friend, with whom you can bounce off ideas.
yeah.
But
It
ultimately,
is.
of
It's
course,
actually like that.
yeah, you have to humanize it. You have to do the whole thing yourself. But there is someone who can
Yeah.
tell you, rather than calling up a friend and asking them, okay, listen, I want to write on this. Do you think, people will read or something? I use AI for that, as a friend with from where I can get ideas and I can bounce off my ideas as well. So, yeah.
But that's a great way to use it, because, and in fact, you don't even need to do the, initial formalities of, hi, how are you? What are you doing? Do you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
time?
yeah,
Nothing.
yeah.
Just send in your message, you get a
Yes.
reply, and it's pretty quick. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm.
So tell me, what is your personal writing process like? I mean, from the idea to the execution, especially when you're crafting thought leadership pieces for CEOs and founders.
Very interesting process actually, and a super question to ask too. So the how we do this is we have something called a strategy call, and on my strategy call, I have a voice authority framework. This framework is something exclusive to me and
Mm,
my clients. So what we do, what I'll explain it since we're on the show. So what happens is that when we sit together, I have a questionnaire, and we kind of record snippets of conversation, not the entire one. Why snippets? Because there are certain words or phrases that the person uses. There are certain expressions that they kind of, get excited over, certain conversations that you're having, and suddenly he'll get excited or suddenly he won't. There could be a moment when he gets vulnerable and doesn't want to answer that particular part, but he still wants to share, because see, personal stories is what brings people to you initially.
yeah, yeah,
Why should I trust Pooja over Priyanka or Surabhi or somebody else? Because there is a reason. It's something I bring to the table, right? So likewise, when we are on these strategy calls, first we get on, I ask them questions, I record parts of it. We go back and forth, even with voice notes on WhatsApp, because that's quicker for them instead of typing out answers for me. Then we talk about pain points. What are pain points? What is it that they're struggling with to want to build this brand? Yeah,
mm,
I'm talking about leaders here, for example, or if you're talking about people that come to me for coaching, why do you want to learn how to do this? What is it that you're struggling with? What is it that you don't understand? Because understanding the nuance, understanding the why behind building that personal brand is very important to build that personal brand, right? And then you put in, and I layer insights. It's to how do we structure his content? Typically, content is structured in three ways. Either you use it to inform, you use it to educate, you use it to entertain. 9 out of 10 times, I would use all three, because you have to make it relatable for the audience. Initially, when we talk of, not initially, for example, if you were to talk about Tesla or Elon Musk, Elon Musk's personal brand is what Tesla is riding on, right? Richard Branson, Virgin Atlantic. Even if you see the metrics, even if you see the audiences, The Virgin Atlantic page versus Richard Branson's page, very, very different in terms of numbers, very different in terms of content, because Richard Branson's page is about him and about his experiences and how he started and why he did. I mean, when we want to read about him, we want to know about his hot air ballooning. Why? Because of the brand that he is. So his company is riding on that brand. So that is important, which is a question that a lot of CEOs and C-suites come to me for, saying, everybody knows us. Why do I need a brand? I said, it's not about everybody knows you. It's about you wanting to be out in rooms that you didn't know yourself. Everybody doesn't know everything. And you certainly don't know each and every human on this world. So how do you reach them? Online, this is the best platform, right? How do you start? How do you grow? How do you position yourself? Because positioning is everything on online. In the online world, how you project and position yourself is everything. Yes, it needs to be 110% authentic. That is what will ride you for the long haul.
Very well said. Again, like I was like paying rapt attention because like
Thank you.
doing all this. So, yeah, it makes, and I think authenticity is something which really stands out and holds you in good stead for a very long time. Because I think whoever you are creating the content for, if you're not authentic, if you're not true, sooner or later they will be able to see through you. And that's when
Yeah.
I think the whole bubble will burst, and then God only help you, right?
God only help you. Well said. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So tell me, you are a columnist and you are an author. So, how different is writing for print and long form media versus writing for platforms like LinkedIn or Google News or something like that?
See, print is timeless. If you give me a book to read, I would not go for Kindle. I would still look at the books behind you. I would still want to pick up that paperback because there's something about the smell of that paper. There's something about holding a book and reading it, like curling up on the couch, sitting, having a hot chocolate, reading a book. And I think you and I can relate to it. Maybe the younger generation can't, but we can, because for us, that is what print does, right? Today, even today, I prefer reading news in a newspaper, on a newspaper. I don't want to see it online. Of course, I have in shorts, I can see it. I'll get it. Everything is so quick and fast, but I still want to sit with my morning chai, put on, read the newspaper, see what's on, who said what is happening. It's just fun for me to do it that way. That's timeless according to me. But having said that, the global world is also on print. So there are a lot of platforms online, like Google News, for example. You need to be seen and heard there as well. Because if you're not, how are people consuming it? Stats show that more than 80% of the world is consuming content digitally. So if you want to be featured or if you want to be seen and heard, you need to be present there as well. So writing for digital versus writing for print are not very different. Digital would be a little bit shorter, maybe more crisper, because again, attention spans are lesser, but it is a necessity. And both of them are as of today. Sadly, unfortunately, I do kind of envision print going out maybe in the next 10 years or so. I hope it doesn't, because I'm a writer and I'm an author too, and I love writing, and this, the book is there. I hope it doesn't, but I do see it with the way we are moving. So let's see. I mean, only time will tell what happens.
Yeah, that is true. So I am, yes, totally. Even I love the, the smell and the feel of the book. But, though I do see, and, all around me, the younger generation consuming digital content and all that. But I also see young people, buying books. My son is a case in point. He's 25 and
Okay.
he loves to buy books and read. So I sometimes tell him, that you do have a Kindle. He said it's not the same. I want to hold that book.
Yeah, it is.
And coming from a 25-year-old, I really feel very good to know that all is not lost. And this is probably going to continue. And also, Pooja, another thing I've seen, that in fact today only I was discussing with someone, the number of bookstores that are coming up. It can't be that everybody is foolhardy and everybody is just, not taking a decision which is, not meant or not based on business sense. Because where I live in Gurgaon, there are so many bookstores which are coming up, and there are book clubs and people.
And I love it, and I hope
I
it stays, which is why I hope I'm wrong, because even my kids, they buy books. Even today, it's like, can I order a book? Because I want to read a book. I don't want to read on Kindle. And I hope it doesn't go out because of book clubs and things that are there.
Yes.
But with the way we're moving, it's just so quick. Like sometimes you just want ki, thehem jao. Like just take it slow, a little bit. Like just stop to breathe.
Because I remember, visiting. So I love doing these bookstore visits. So I was in Scandinavia. And there, I asked this question to people in the bookstores. I said, why are you buying books? Why don't you read on a device? So they said, all day long, we are on a device. So this gives us a
Yeah.
break because the eyes also need rest. Either you're on a laptop or a phone or an iPad. So we don't want to read also on a device because then when are our eyes, ever going to, get rest? So I hope so that
Yeah,
it,
I hope so too. I really hope so because I love books
so do
and
I.
I write books. So, yeah, I definitely hope so.
And so do I actually. So, of course, Pooja, as you said, you write books and you love to read. So, what I saw from your profile was that, your work with the Prabha Khaitan Foundation and various literary festivals, it shows your deep commitment to India's cultural roots. Now, why is storytelling around heritage and values so important in today's world?
Great question, because culture is context. And we live in a world that is obsessed with speed. So when we have stories that revolve around heritage, I think somewhere they offer a lot of grounding and a lot of depth. Our younger generation doesn't understand mythology like the way we did. So when we talk about culture, when we talk about traditions through the Prabha Khaitan Foundation, we are trying to showcase artifacts, stories, people from different states, stories about different states, dances, art forms, music, lots of different things pertaining to each and every state of India. And it's a national movement. And I think through that, a lot of people, even I, for instance, I don't know everything about, say, an Odisha or a Chhattisgarh, right? But when I go for meetings of Prabha Khaitan out there, I learn a lot. You see their arts, you see their art, you meet their artisans, you meet their authors, their poets, their storytellers. There's a whole world inside India, and we are lucky to be so diverse. We have so many languages, we have so many traditions, we have every part of our country, just our north, south, east, and west. All four have a stark divide. People can literally tell you, "Oh, you're from South India. Oh, you're from West India." I mean, it's so inherent. Like people initially used to tell me, "Oh my God, you don't look like you're from like North India." I said, "Because I'm not blingy." I mean, it just comes on, like, oh, North India is bling, South Western India is basic, South India is different. I mean, it's just a mentality that we have, but it brings us all together. Yesterday I was having a very interesting chat with a prospective client of mine from Florida, and he was talking to me about things about the intercultural people that live in America, and what they're going through with current proceedings there. I won't get into that, but he was saying it's so beautiful to have. He's married to an Indian, and he says we're intercultural, and our relationship is just so different and so vibrant because we bring so much. A variety to our everyday life, which normal people don't have. And I said, imagine that in India, just being in India, being an Indian, I don't know all of India. East of India is so different from West or South or North. So we're blessed. And that is what we aim to do with the Prabha Khaitan Foundation. And I'm absolutely honored, that I have that opportunity and chance to be a part of it to spread the word.
That's actually absolutely true because kids today, I think, with
Yeah,
all
they
this
don't know.
technology and all these things that they keep doing, they do have limited access to mythology and the cultural heritage of our country, which is so beautiful, so diverse, so rich. And I think by doing this, yes, we are keeping all these traditions alive and, you're telling them about it. So I actually had a guest a few weeks ago. She's based out of Singapore and she writes these storybooks for children where she's
Okay.
only talking about mythology characters from there. There's another one who's in Hong Kong. Maybe when you live abroad you realize the need to do it more because you see that
Yeah.
what you had your children don't have. So in fact, one of them, she's in Hong Kong, she said, I started writing this only because I wanted to explain, I think it was Holi she was talking about. She wanted to tell all about Holi to her child, but she said, I did not know, I mean, where to read it from. So she decided to write
Yeah.
about herself. So I think it's
How sweet.
yeah. So I think it is very, very important to expose our children to this beautiful heritage of ours. Okay.
Yes, it is.
So, Pooja, in addition to, of course, the Prabha Khaitan Foundation, you are also the board of the Khushwant Singh Lit Fest and India's only crime lit fest. So, how do you see literature evolving to reflect contemporary India?
In myriad forms, actually, initially being a writer, being an author, it was a very solitary, lonely journey. And I think that literature festivals have given rise to getting these authors out of their, whatever solitary confinements, if I may say so, to
Hmm.
speak about why they write and how. And I feel also when people meet these authors, when you meet them face to face at a bookstore, at an event, the take home is a lot more, which is also something that we do at, the foundation, that we have these small events where we get authors to come and talk about their books and why they wrote and how they wrote. And those little nuances is what you want to know. That's what brings people together. And that's what brings stories together. So, as far as we go, we're trying to imbibe the traditional versus modern. And through literature, I think that can be achieved because literature is timeless. In my opinion, we've been hearing it, reading it since Shakespeare. It's timeless and it brings us all to a world of our own. Everybody reads a book with their own perceptions in mind. You
Yeah.
are reading Shakespeare, you will have your own inference. I am reading Shakespeare, I'll have my own. So I just feel that it's really, really nice, in a way nostalgic also, because it wasn't there so much before, but literature festivals per se in India has really mushroomed up
Yeah.
and has given so many people the chance to step out there and talk about what they do and why. Specifically, authors, poets, writers, storytellers,
Yeah.
stand-up comedians. There's this entire industry, this creative industry that is kind of taking shape, which is, I think, all these creator awards and things that are happening. Wave just happened in Bombay
Hmm.
for creators. There's a lot of what should I say? There's a lot of presence. There's a lot of acknowledgement for people in the creative space, which
Right.
is really, really nice to see. Yeah.
I absolutely agree. I mean, this whole concept of a literature festival, it is like, so festival, of course, you associate it with, like festivities and celebration and all of that. And here you are celebrating books, you're celebrating authors, you're celebrating poets. I mean, the whole idea, it really fascinates me. And I just love the idea of, and there is so much to choose from. Go and listen
Yeah.
to this person, go and listen to that person. And then, like what you said about bookstores, also, I mean, the number of bookstores that are coming up and the kind of events that are getting organized there, I think it is all becoming, I don't know, maybe richer than before in some sense. And I hope it
Yeah,
can.
in a way, it's bringing all of us together too, right? Because every festival is not only about the author, it's also about the audience. Imagine the amount of people. Before we started, you were talking to me about give me the Khushwant Singh dates.
Yes.
I'd like to go and see
Uh,
because it's a different vibe. You're meeting people there. It's so deep rooted in culture. It's so deep rooted in literature, in theory, it's in conversations. Because where are the conversations happening? People hardly talk to each other. How often are we really talking face to face? Everything is online because the world has made it easier, yes, but there is power in that face to face conversation, and we need to bring that out. So these festivals give you the chance to kind of reconnect and explore the old and the new together.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. All right. So, your upcoming books, Am I Too Young for Insta? And Let's Make Young Adulting Fun. Very fun titles, I must say. So, they speak to Gen Z, yes? So,
Yes.
what inspired you to write for them? And what message do you hope young readers will walk away with after they read your books?
So the reason this was written is because I was trapped with both my young teenagers in the house during Corona. And I said, when Corona gets over, only one of the three of us will survive. And I want to be that one because I am going absolutely crazy
Huh.
managing. And there was a time when my entire family was down with Corona and I was the only one that didn't have it. So a lot was on me. And that was when, to just kind of get everything out, I said, you know what, there's a lot. My elder daughter was set to go to college. My younger one was obsessing with Instagram because that's all that she had. And
Hmm.
I didn't want her to get on Instagram, which is how, strangely, Sangeeta, both the books got written simultaneously, night after night after night, through
Okay.
lockdown. And I literally finished them both in, I think, 65 or 70 days. And
Wow.
at the end of 70 days, when we finally got out, I was like, I have two books. And I was like, oh my God, wow. And then the kids were like, you better give us credit, we better get royalty because we are the reason you wrote it. I
Yeah.
said, yeah, considering all the gray in my head is thanks to those 2, 3 months.
Huh.
But there are stories that I wish I knew when I was young too. I wish I knew. I've grown up. I've had the privilege of growing up with very, very open open-minded parents and stuff. But there are a lot of parts of me that I wish I could have kind of spoken, because I was in boarding school for a fair share of my life, never really spent so much time home. And now that my kids were in boarding school, I said, this disconnect. There are things that they need to know, especially before leaving for college. A child from Pithoragarh in Uttarakhand to Mumbai versus somebody from Mumbai to America, the gap is the same.
Yes.
Lots of things about life we need to know about. How does spirituality fit in? Where does kindness come? Why should you step outside your comfort zone? How important is financial independence? Small topics, relevant topics, but very, very prevalent for that young adult. For
Right.
Instagram, I've tackled on, for even younger, for teenagers that we say, 10 to 14, because it delves into the world of Instagram and deep fake. Things that have happened to me. I mean, because I'm online so much, because my pictures are online so much, yes, I have been a victim of cybercrime and deepfake, and it's been traumatic. So how do you avoid that? Which is why I say get off Instagram, not 12, 13. You're too young to understand who is on the other side of that screen. So in a fun way, that's a comic book, intending to be like another mini Marvel of sorts. But I'm very excited about that. It's coming up well. Westland's publishing it, and it's a nice, interesting story about three young girls and how they get caught into the world of deep fake, and how they get out of it just in time.
So I think much needed in today's day and age, where you
Yes.
see these young kids, just hooked onto their phones, to Instagram, to all of that. So I think much needed. And I hope it does well. And I hope parents make their children read it, because I think, what happens is that as a parent, I understand sometimes when you are trying to say something to your child, the message does not, really, you're not able to convey it as much as if they read about it, or if somebody else says the same thing. I think with
Yeah.
parents, a lot, gets taken for granted, because you're constantly telling them to do something or not do something. So they just kind of take it with sometimes not even a pinch full, but a bag full of salt. So I think this should do a lot of good, because
I hope so. I hope so.
so many parents out there, I'm sure, are struggling to get their children off
Yes.
media. Okay. So, Pooja, while we've come to the end of the conversation, we still have the rapid fire round, which is 5 quick questions and 5 quick answers. So, are you ready?
I love rapid fire, so go for it.
All right. Okay. So, simple one first. What's your favorite writing tool or app right now?
Just my paper and pen. I am very, very old school. I love writing with paper and pen, honestly.
All right. You're just like me.
But if I were to give you a tool, then yes, a simple Word doc. I just open Word and I start writing. I
Hmm.
don't go in for fancy. Yeah, maybe to format, edit this, that. Of course, there are different softwares. But
But
to write, I would use paper pen. Or if I'm doing a book, if I'm doing something online, I would write on a Word doc.
okay. All right. The next one. A stereotype about content creators that you would like to bust.
That all of the content creators are affluential, privileged people that just want to get ready, put makeup, and sit in front of the camera and record. That's not true. Uh, that's absolutely not true at all. They do it in the way that they find most comfortable. And hats off, because it takes a lot, even to get ready and sit in front of camera, even not to get ready and sit in front of camera. Just being in front of camera and pressing post takes a lot. And that is something that I wish that the world would understand more of, because trolling is very, very rampant, and it's really sad that without realizing, without putting facts out there, you just go out and start saying nasty things, and it happens to the biggest of us.
Oh, yes.
So that is something that I feel that you have to understand the person behind the screen. They're also human.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. The next one. A quote you live by.
Nothing to do with content, but it's one of my favorite quotes, which is by Shakespeare. Love me or hate me, both both are in my favor.
Mm.
If you love me, I'll be in your heart. But if you hate me, oh baby, I will rule your mind. So that's something
I
that,
love
when people say,
I love
so
this.
every time, and trust me, Sangeeta, I got trolled this morning on LinkedIn, and I was like, oh my God, you're so obsessed with me that I said, you're writing about me because you want people to comment on your post. And that's exactly what happened. So I said, it'll always work, because if you're so obsessed with just bringing somebody down, all your energy is just focused there.
Yeah,
Whereas people that are actually living it up are so busy working and doing it, we're not even bothered. So I think trolling is a part and parcel of being in the creator space. So you just take it with a pinch or a bag of salt, as you said, and just move on.
all right, right, actually. Okay, Pooja, if not content, what would you be doing?
Writing books. I'd be sipping margaritas, sitting on some nice fancy beach and just writing books. It's like something that just sets my soul on fire. I love it. I just love writing. Yeah.
All
So
right, that's good to know. And then finally, finish this sentence. To be a successful writer in today's world, you must.
research very, very, very well.
Yes, that I think is so true, so true. Because that is what adds credibility to what you've written. Even I think if you're writing fiction, you've
Yeah.
got to
Even then.
research,
Yeah.
you've got to have your facts in place, which actually kind of brought me or took me back to my book, because when I was writing it and I was, writing about some profession, I really had to understand what it involved and talk to people about it. So yeah, so you need to
It
research.
makes it fun, Sangeeta. Like, for example, in, Am I Too Old for Insta? So, in that book, which is a working title, by the way, so the protagonist is a South Indian girl from Kerala. So,
Hmm.
yes, I had to research. I know of Kerala, but what are the words that they use? How do they make their homes? What are some things that are very typical to a Keralite? So you have to research about that to bring it out in your book. Why does she stand out in like Sobo in Bombay?
Hmm.
What is so typically, like oil, for example, what kind of oil? Like, you have to research a little bit, because even if it's fiction, as you rightly said, a well-researched book is a well-researched, is a well-read book also.
Absolutely, absolutely. So finally, we have come to the end of the conversation, and
I'm so sad that it ended so soon, but
I
it was
know,
lovely,
and
lovely talking.
it is so fascinating. And like, like I said, I think I've already said it a million times before that it's so resonated, every bit of what you've said, because I mean, I'm in a kind of a similar space as you. So understanding that where you're coming from, then our love for books and reading and bookstores, my God, there's so many things that we connect on. It was really wonderful talking to you. And I think, kind of we must carry this connection on. And, but thank you so much for being on the show. And I'm
Yes, thank you so much for
really
having me,
happy.
and a big shout out and thanks to our common friend Nikhil
Yes,
for getting us together.
yes.
So I did tell him, I said, I owe you coffee, because Sangeeta and I are going to be chatting, and I must say thanks to him, because at some point he's going to hear us both chatter away too.
Yes.
So, but thank you, Sangeeta, for having me. It's absolutely been an honor and a privilege to be here.
And like I said, thank you for being here.
Thank you for tuning in to the About Her show. If you enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more from where that came from. Our previous guests have shared some amazing stories, so be sure to catch up on past episodes. To keep up with our inspiring conversations and to never miss an update, hit subscribe, rate, review, and share the love. Follow us on social media for some great content, and don't forget to check out our website www.aboutherbysangeeta.com for stories that resonate, inspire, and empower. Know a remarkable woman or an inspiring man blazing a trail? We'd love to hear from you. Drop us a note at web.abouther@gmail.com and let's bring their story to life on the About Her show.